Hello and welcome to Perspectives. My name is David Schoneman and I'm your host again on this show. We are a week away from election here in 2024. It's a national election, of course, and you've been following the news or hearing the news, and how could anyone have avoided the news, really, for the last 2 or 3 years? It's been in all of our faces for a long time. A lot of national politics, a lot of things going on the national scene, of course, on the state level, and even on the local level, too, because we have ward races, state rep races here in New Hampshire every 2 years. And, of course, here we are ready for that again. I'm in the studio today with a candidate for state rep from Ward 4 here in Nashua, Dave Narkunas. Dave has run before. He's got a lot of great ideas. He has a lot of enthusiasm and energy about what can be done to better serve the folks in Ward 4. And he's no stranger to being interviewed. He was on national television about, actually in the last cycle, where he had a chance to share some of his insights on the national scene too. So we have a treat today to have Dave with us, and he'll have a lot of good things to share for local and state level politics. Dave, thanks for coming in. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me back.
Sure. Always a pleasure.
It's really good to once again have someone to allow me to express myself and vocalize.
Sure.
People need to pay attention more to local news, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I can go into my background. For those of you who haven't seen the several other interviews I've had with Carl, particularly him too.
Yeah.
I grew up actually in Nashua, believe it or not, and I'm back here after many different locations where I've lived in New Hampshire and in Massachusetts around the Boston area. Mm-hmm. My background is in biochemistry. I have a degree from University of New Hampshire in biological chemistry, a Bachelor of Science degree. And with that degree came a lot of learning related to genetics and then bioinformatics, biomedical engineering, and immunology. A lot of my intellectual property law work, which I have been doing for approximately 20 years, slightly newer job I'm working now in the interim to bounce back into it. But I did a tremendous amount of patentability analysis on monoclonal antibodies.
Wow.
And from there, I transitioned into biomedical engineering. I worked for a local company, Atrium Medical, for several years. And we were doing a lot of work with omega-3 fatty acid technology, as well as stents. And I have a background with hernia meshes and things of that nature.
Oh, sounds great. I think that a lot of people who decide to run, come from all kinds of different backgrounds, and it's always interesting to hear what people have done. I did aviation stuff, and now I'm doing mechanical things, and here you are, as a patent attorney, doing some patent law.
I can only say I'm a member of the patent bar, federally licensed, not state licensed.
Got it.
I left a little bit early from school, so fortunately for me, I passed that a long time ago. So I have my credentials with me this entire time.
Great. So what makes you? What has prompted you to want to get involved in state level politics here in New Hampshire?
Well, I think that even local state, kind of a hybrid, if you want to call it that. It needs to be, someone has to be able to stand up against what's happening and what I'm seeing in this country. It seems that so many things, if the Democrats get involved, it ends up getting screwed up. And someone has to have the guts to take on the Democratic Party machine.
Yeah.
And in some regards, it strikes me more as like a military-run regimen than a political party.
Yeah.
The extent to which the I's are dotted the I's and the T's are crossed with this. It makes me realize that we need someone with my kind of discipline that will be able to have that. Because of my patent law background, you do dot every I, you watch every comma, and you have to have that mindset to be able to take them on. And so I was approached a while ago, a few years ago when there were special elections. I said, I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. Things didn't necessarily go my way, but I learned along the way.
Yeah.
And now my name is known. And then people at my current work, Home Depot, Platinum Associate, they come up to me and they said, did I see you on Fox News?
Yeah.
And yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It was Todd and Carly Simkis. Todd Piro interviewed me, and he made me realize that I didn't really consider, I assumed when he was talking about the border issues with New Hampshire, that it was people coming up from Massachusetts into New Hampshire,
Yeah.
but it was, he was actually alluding to the northern border.
Yeah, the northern border, it's surprisingly porous, really. I think that we have to be very careful about what's going on up there. Now, the assumption is that if someone's coming in from the northern border, they're coming from Canada, and you can't walk to Canada. So Canada has some rules and regulations about who can get there, because you got to get there on a boat or a plane. But once people are there, then it becomes very easy to come across. Now, I spent a little bit of time in China years ago, and people that I met in China wanted to come to the United States, but they said to me that it's much harder to get to the United States. Now, granted, this is a long time ago. Now it's easy. It's too easy, I think, in many cases. But they said it's easier to go to Canada. And once they get to Canada, then they can easily come to the United States.
Yeah.
So that's the route that I think a lot of people will take. So I think if the folks are coming across the border, or the northern border, it's probably not from Central America. They're probably Chinese or maybe Middle Eastern, or from some place where Canada has a process where they let people in, but they're still potentially coming across the border illegally. I can tell you a quick story. We went up to northern New Hampshire tent camping a couple of weeks ago. My family, my wife and our now 8-year-old son, and up at Pittsburgh, you can drive up to the border, and there's about 700 feet between our border station and the Canadian border station. But the border itself is a line. I mean, it's just a thin line, and that's about 30 feet north of the U.S. station. So you can park your car there by the U.S. station, go through the woods, and there's a well-marked hiking trail. It says hiking trail this way. And you walk along through a swath in the woods. It looks like it's a power line cut. If you're driving along down here, you see power line cuts, see the power lines through the woods. There are no power lines at this, what looks like a power line cut. It's just a wide swath of woods that have been cut down, not down to the ground. There's some undergrowth still there, but it's about 30 feet wide. And there's a hiking trail through there. And that hiking trail, it's as wide as a person. It crisscrosses back and forth across the border. So we have some pictures of Isaac, who's never been to another country. He's 8 years old. But there he is, standing, pointing to the, I'm in Canada sign, because that's how easy it is. You only have a border check when you get up to the next station, which, like I say, is like 700 feet to the Canadian entry station. At that point, they're checking you. But if you just kind of walk on the hiking trail, and the hiking trail is public trail, there's no problem. You just hike. And I've seen videos, and I've heard stories about farmers up in the North Country in New York State or in Vermont or New Hampshire with game cameras or whatever on, and you're seeing this infrared picture of people coming across the border because it's wide open. There's nothing but a line, and there's not even a wire at that line. It's just a marker here and a marker there and a marker there. That's the line. So the border is very easy to get across, and it's an issue. And I think that's an issue that the State House, Concord, state reps need to address, much like what they do in some of the southern states. It's a federal issue, but to the extent that the federal government's not doing it, we need to protect our folks, our state, from illegal border crossings.
I think something that people may want to consider when assuming we win, Trump wins, we immediately start focusing on the northern border. Obviously, we got to stop us, the southern states from hemorrhaging this amount of drugs coming in and illegals coming in and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I wish, I could have more of an influence, but that seems to be more of a federal issue.
Well, we have influence at all levels, and I think that there's definitely going to be a state component, especially when it comes to dealing with drugs. And the drug issue here in New Hampshire, I've had shows on that issue in the past, and it has not gone away. The drugs are coming up from the southern border, I think, predominantly, but they're apparently sourced in China and maybe some other countries. And it's clearly a problem, and some of our folks here in the state are paying for that problem with their lives.
I have a brief story. I met someone who lives adjacent to June Karen Park, and he has people jumping his fence from out back to try to get in and rob him.
Is there a tent city in June Karen Park or something?
I don't know about that, but he said there's a lot of people, and he had to deal with that. One time, he had to protect his wife who was being threatened with a guy with a knife. And if he didn't pull his gun out to convince him to get the hell off his property, who knows how that would have went. And he says, he's in my ward. He's in my ward.
This is Ward 4.
Ward 4. And he says, I'll vote for you if you promise to do something. I said, yeah, how could I not? This is in my backyard too.
Right. That's right. That's right. So the crime that is associated with open borders.
Just crime, drugs.
Yeah, it affects every state, and we're no exception. We like to think we're in the northeast corner here. No one's going to bother us. We're a little state, but that's not the case.
No, it's when I was interviewed with Todd on Fox, I explained that there was someone walking in front of my driveway, through my driveway to get next door and get up and sleep on a landing.
Oh,
next
on a
door,
landing?
outside on a landing of the next door. There's a Christian Science church next door to us. And we monitored this individual for a while, and they seemed to have left. But it happened, I think, the day before I was interviewed.
Wow. So there is a migrant problem that you're aware of here in Nashua and Ward 4. Now, you mentioned in one of our conversations earlier that you had some conversations with someone who's on the police department, or?
Yeah, I won't get into names.
Okay.
He's a well-known guy. And
is he on the force currently?
No.
Okay.
No. However, he says he's still friends with tons and tons of police officers. And he told me so much is not being reported, or it's being reported quickly and then swept under the rug. He says it's much worse than what appears that makes the news. We had a 34-year-old woman was fatally stabbed, I believe, by an illegal alien.
Here in Nashua?
In Nashua. And then ICE got involved, and then you don't hear anything about it.
Yeah, there seems to be a very strong desire to cover it up. And I think bringing these things to light, taking on this machine and bringing these things to light is very important. I think that's one of the reasons that you explained before the show that you're running. And I think bringing these kinds of things to light is critical. So every state becomes a border state, really, because the migrant issue is everywhere. And I think that we have city policies that encourage the influx. It seems to me, that's my opinion, but we have city policies that tend to encourage the influx. We're not labeled a sanctuary city, but we're not too far off.
Yeah, I think that through virtue signaling, all these Democrat-run cities, oh, come on over here, and then they're buried.
Yeah.
They're buried, they're swamped. They go, no, put the brakes on. We can help a little bit of people, maybe, but now the priority should be to address the concerns of your own people first.
Yes.
And you see all these people have arguments in Chicago. Whoa, we were here first. How come you're helping these people and they got a luxury condo to stay in with a flat screen TV?
Sure.
Other people are working their butts off and having frustrating time trying to achieve the American dream, which doesn't seem too readily available at this point in time.
Right. It should be available for Americans and for legal immigrants. Legal immigrants are Americans, but legal immigrants is very important. Which now you talked about the cost and the American dream, and money is wrapped up in all those things. And we've seen runaway inflation, and we've seen a big change in our Nashua homeowners assessments, which affects taxes. Now, we don't know how much taxes are going to go up. There's a state component to tax and a local component to tax, but we've seen how that's been pushed up. And we had a Board of Aldermen that very easily voted for a spending cap override in the last budget cycle. And that goes to people's wallets. So the tax bill, property tax bill, I don't care if you're renting as part of your rent, your landlord's paying it, and he's getting that money from somewhere. He's getting it from the tenants. So tenants who might think, well, I don't pay property tax bill. Yeah, you do. Because the rent you're paying gives that landlord the ability to pay taxes. I used to be a landlord. And that's how it works. When taxes go up, rent goes up. It has to be, because that's where the money comes from. It's a business. Yeah,
multiple people have come forward to me, and they knew that I was running and said, can you do something to stop my property taxes from going up? And even my own house. Nothing has been done, yet the tax goes right up.
Yeah.
And they're trying to convince you that, but houses of similar style and size are selling for X. but not mine.
Right.
You know,
Mine's not for sale. We're not
it's for
selling
sale.
it. Yeah, there's no extra money here.
Don't make me pay. So, yeah, more than one occasion, a person has come up to me and said, can you please try to fix this?
Yeah.
And this is the increase in money that they're extracting, I would say like a dentist extracting from people, it is because they blew the limit. They blew the limit, and then they're forcing people to kind of pay for all the other projects that they have going on. I'm sure there's a lot of people that were against that art. It's nice to have certain things, and it's critical to have certain things done.
Right.
This would be nice to have. An
the art center you're talking about.
Would be nice to have.
That's a nice to have.
A lot
it's
of other stuff, like the waterfront that they're developing, almost every penny should have been going towards the police station right down the street from where we're filming this. We have to be ready for this influx that's going to keep coming.
Yeah.
You know, unless if
we have to stem it, and we got to be ready for what's already here.
I heard stories of people being bussed in droves flown in, fly by night in the middle of the night to military air bases, and then just scattered, dispersed.
Yeah, I've heard those stories too. I haven't seen any buses or anything, but I'd be curious to know the facts on all that. I'm not saying what you're saying isn't factual, but to know the numbers.
The last I heard was we were at around 325,000 people intentionally flown into our country.
Into our country?
Into our country from other countries.
Wow.
Into our country.
And this was the program directly from was it from, let's say, Texas? It was flown in from other countries?
Yes. On purpose, by design.
Yeah.
And this is to overload the system. They're actually, what they're doing was something called Cloward Piven.
Yes, we talked about that.
And it's an economic mechanism by which you can overload a system where there's no choice but to have the government bail out the entire country, but without certain caveats of power that are going to be delegated. It's the step to really accelerate socialism, which is, as we know, that I've said before, the doorstep of communism. You got to have these things in mind.
Yeah.
They're intentionally trying to overload and overbear the system so it breaks, so they have an excuse to take action, and just whatever they want is the deal that goes with it for them saving us out.
Yeah. I don't want that to happen.
No. No
here
one
in
does.
Nashua, certainly don't want my family suffering that. I think protecting the family ends up protecting the country. And so I'm hoping that as people are looking at this election, that they're thinking about doing the right things for their family. And as you do the right things for their family, they're helping the nation. But we don't want to move towards socialism. And it's interesting, we talk about Trump, and people have been talking about Trump, and maybe someone watching is going to say, oh, please don't talk about Trump. But Trump represents a phenomenon that's happening in America that I think no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we should be considering, because he's going up against an establishment. He's contradicting the standard talking points that are spouted by the Biden-Harris administration and are now also spouted by mainstream media. He's going against that grain. And the traction that he's getting is clearly huge.
Yeah.
And whether we like Trump or not, or whether anyone on watching at home likes Trump or not, isn't the issue. The issue is that a message that gives people real hope for a better future, a message that's better for your family, better for your investment portfolio, better, gains a lot of traction with American people. And so we're seeing things in the national polls, and I've heard we're seeing things changing in New Hampshire in polling for Trump versus Harris, and hopefully in your race too, we'll see things changing as people begin to realize that they have a choice. They don't have to go along with the status quo. They have a choice that can give them a better future, actual hope. And it's an interesting phenomenon that's going on here. So we've got all up and down the ballot. We're talking about a down ballot race here, but down ballot races are very important, because what happens down ballot probably has a more direct effect on our daily lives.
Yes, I agree.
Than what happens nationally. I mean, the presidential race, it's going to have an influence, and a lot of those influences, take time to trickle down. But what happens in Concord, and certainly what happens in City Hall, have a direct bearing and a quick bearing.
I think, well, I want to be the guy you vote for because I want to represent common sense and reason. And I think if you look at what's happened in this past administration, it's just been a train wreck. And so these people, and they don't follow the Constitution.
No.
And it's one of those things about me that people, if they don't know, they know now. I will follow the Constitution. I mean, I think that's the answer. It's not, democracy is an existential threat to democracy for the 10,000th time. No. Democracy is just a form of government. It's ruled by the 51%, and you got to inform them and educate them. You live in a constitutional republic with checks and balances where people should be held accountable. How come people that can, say 51 people, for example, can go sign something saying something's Russian disinformation? Nothing happens. Nothing happens to these people. They get away with everything. I want accountability. And I want, for some reason, I think the Republican Party isn't standing up vocally like I am. Everyone knows me, I'm very vocal. And so if you want someone vocal, I'm the kind of guy that you want to vote for.
Right. I think that your point about the Constitution is critical because, without a Constitution, or if we have what people like to consider to be a living Constitution or a flexible Constitution, a living Constitution that's subject to change with the wind, that's not a Constitution. A Constitution is supposed to be something that really is mostly immovable. Because someone who's going to move into an area, someone who's going to start a business, take a risk, they need to know that there's a solid base, that there's a predictable future, that there's a set of laws and rules that will govern how business is conducted so that they can start a new business with certainty about what that future is going to look like. Yeah, markets can change. I'm not talking about, locking a market in, but locking a set of rules in so that you can start a new business and have some confidence that things are going to be the same in a year from now as they are today. So being focused on the Constitution, I think, is really key. And, there are methods for changing the Constitution. And certainly there are things that we do that are that can be done within the Constitution. If a fee is charged, if it's legal to charge a fee for this or for that, or the size of the fee, those kinds of things, that's all flexible within that framework. But the constitutional framework that says that there are checks and balances and accountability, that has to be held to a very high level.
Well, this is the thing, Dave. We have rules on the books that they're just not following. You designated yourself as a non-citizen, yet a judge is going to allow you to vote? Who's going to judge the judges, Dave?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is so completely, utterly un-American. And someone, and back to what you said earlier about legal immigrants. Someone very close to me is from Mexico, and they came the legal way, did all the interviews, paid all the money, filled out all the forms, studied for the test, and became recently
that's great.
An American citizen. And those people are the ones who deserve, along with us, naturalized, normal American, born here.
I think a lot of people, I've heard that too. I don't know specific people, but I've heard in general that those who have taken the trouble to do it the right way and are now contributors to the system are not happy with the way things are going with some of the illegal immigrants coming across. So you're going to focus on border issues, which includes drug issues. You're going to focus on things that affect our economy, like taxes, to the extent that you'd be able to. And I think it's good that you've had these conversations with folks in your neighborhood, because I think people are looking for representation. They're not looking for the same old thing. We don't want the status quo. And the folks that have been there, I'm talking about representatives who have been in office for a while, and certainly with a single party system like we seem to have here in Nashua, you don't get any kind of diversity of representation. You get only one view. The same old is detrimental. I think it's hard in the family. Speaking about the family, what are your thoughts on parental rights? And that's a state issue too.
It's parents are I know people that pull their kid out of school to home.
That's us
to homeschool them.
Too. Isaac never went to public school, but we saw what was going on. When I was an alderman, I saw what was going on with the school district, and I don't want my son to have to be exposed to some of those folks there and the message that they're trying to bring in. But I think parents have pulled them out to protect them. So what are your thoughts? What do you want to do about parental choice?
We need to have some, once again, accountability on the system to not just immediately, if you're a parent who stands up during a meeting,
right,
and all of a sudden there's cops dragging you off.
Yeah, you're not a terrorist.
I'm sure you've seen some of this stuff,
yeah,
how heated it can get.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're designated a domestic terrorist.
Yeah.
Or do you go in the other bucket, a good concerned parent?
Yeah.
They don't think about that. They automatically go to the extreme, and you can't have you let them speak.
Right.
But there's an agenda. Your kids are being, I'll say, brainwashed, indoctrinated.
Taken away.
The key is to educate. Oh yeah, it's going to turn into the Khmer Rouge. When your kid's 7, kiss him goodbye, kiss her goodbye. They're going to be brought up by the state.
Yeah.
So that's what I could see this kind of thing happening.
Yeah. I
could see it.
Yeah.
And it's we have to fight.
Yeah.
Against this, because I can see the end game,
Yeah.
and it's not pretty.
No.
It's not pretty at all.
Dave, our clock is nearly up. Time goes by really fast on this show. I appreciate you coming in. Is there any final thought you want to leave with a voter who's heading to the polls?
Yes.
Soon and vote
vote for the person who is going to do the best job for your family and for your country.
I think that's an excellent message. I think the candidate does the best job for the family. Those decisions that are good for the family will also be good for the country.
Right.
And whether that's for kids in school and parental rights, or a closed border, or a stronger economy, whatever it is, if someone says, what are my needs for my family? Economic, safety, those kinds of things, education, what are the needs for my family? Vote based on those. And I think that it'll be good for the country, too. Dave, good luck to you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Yep.
I want to thank you, too, for tuning in. My name is David Schoneman, here with Dave Narkunas, candidate for state rep from Ward 4 here in Nashua. I encourage you to go to the polls and vote next week, and we'll see what happens after this election. I'm sure if you're like me, we're getting tired of hearing everything, but then we have to get from Election Day to inauguration and beyond. We'll see where we are, and we'll keep you informed along the way. Thank you very much for tuning in.